Hey guys, welcome back to another one of my tower fantasy videos. Today we'll be doing a player versus player guide. So essentially what I'm going to be doing is taking the weapons all the way up to the shotgun, which is basically the second limited character that came out in CN that I'm hoping to come out on global, because the way that they did the schedule, the same weapon, the same first weapon that came out limited was the katana, or somebody call it the blade, or red locust blade, or whatever you want to call it. It came out on CN first, and then it also came out on global first. So I'm assuming they're going to be following the same pathing to get to those weapons. But I'm not going to really go over the shotgun that much. I didn't play it. I seen other people play it. I think it's a fairly good weapon. But anyhow, we're going to open up this right here. The first thing we're going to do is go over these weapons, because you got different types of weapons, and I'm steady getting questioned about player versus player, or what they do. I don't even know how the fuck you get this weapon. This is an SSR. I don't know if that came out of nowhere, or is that a weapon they added tomorrow or something. I don't know. But that's a physical weapon or whatever. But anyhow, you got these other little weapons that are going to be in there. So I have made this little thing right here on Grammarly. I'm going to translate it over to a Google Doc, and then I'm going to post it inside of my Discord, so that way you guys can access it or whatever. Right here I got down all the weapons official name, whether they're rare, super rare, or super rare, or whatever you want to call it, or SSR or whatever. I have it all listed. I have their actual name. I have the name for them that the game goes by, and I also have little nicknames for them or whatever. Like, it's called the locust blade, or you can call it a sword. I call it a katana because it's literally like almost a katana to me, essentially. I call it the physical sword or whatever, or the gun. I call it a shotgun. The game recognizes it as a shotgun, or you can call it a revolver if you want. And I have those different things listed. Or like the wand, also the specter. I call it also the staff. It's the healing weapon. I also have what type of like thing that they go on. So there's like 3 different things inside the game. You have brute, you have perseverance, which I also call tank. Brute is also attacking my eyes, and then you have blessing, which is essentially healer. Those things not gonna really matter about too much unless it's like if you're in a party or whatever. So that's not gonna really matter that much. So the next thing that I need to move over to, we're back over to Tower Fantasy. The next thing that I need to go over is the fact that what was I about to say? The fact that there's 2 different types of player versus player. You got the Apex Legion, which is the ranked version, which will give you black crystals essentially, so you can do more pulls, and it'll push you on a leaderboard to compete with other people. And then you have open world player versus player, which is if I decide to drop $1,000 on the game when it first comes out, and my shield is at max potential like how it is in this game, then my shield is going to fuck you up, because my shield is going to have so many buffs on it. Like, the difference from these weapons when they're upgraded, because you have decided to spend money on upgrading them and catching copies of them, is significantly different from Star 1. Like, this weapon, you're able to transform it twice once you get it to max potential. So you're able to go into the shield mode, you're able to go into the axe mode, and revert back to normal. And those still give double debuffs, or double burns, and stuns, and lots of shield break. So it's a really big difference, and which is why you don't play open world player versus player, because it's extremely unbalanced, unless you want to do that. If you want to do that, if you want to troll some kids, you want to beat on kids that's like 10 levels lower than you, because you know you're going to have higher stats and bite them, go ahead, have fun. But everything I'm about to say is about to be for the balance mode, which, if I'm not mistaken, you start off at level 50. Everyone is at the equal level of 50. Your gears does not matter or whatever. It's going to all be balanced out. And the only thing that's going to really change what happens, because even the weapon you bring in is going to be all balanced to maximum potential, which is 6-star or whatever, all the way max. Which means you're going to get all the abilities for it or whatever, if I'm not mistaken. So, like, you're going to take those weapons, and you're going to be able to take 3 into there or whatever. And then you're going to have 2 gadgets you're able to select. Now, whatever gadgets you decide to pick is up to you, but me personally, I use the arms, so you transfer into the arms, you land on someone, you do physical damage, and it does a lot of physical damage. It's a close range weapon, but it can easily be dodged, and if they're expecting it or they sense you already use it, then it's essentially a useless gadget. If you mess up the first time, you don't get it, then it's kind of useless. You have the little vortex, which inflicts the debuff of direction control or whatever. Oh wait, no, that was the tornadoes. What it did was slowed you. They gave you the debuff of slow, so you couldn't move, and they just comboed the shit out of you, and it also did damage over time. Then you have the tornado, which inflict direction confusion, which basically means if I was to press W on my key, instead of going upwards, it'll go like on the side, or it'll go backwards, or something weird like that, or around in a circle. It's really cancerous if you get hit by it. So yeah, there's a lot of different gadgets. They have a lot of different uses. You even got clones, a gadget that can clone you, so you can do twice the damage, twice the hit stun, twice the stun or whatever. A really lot of different options that give you a lot of potential to do essentially what you want. So there's really no best gadget I can give you. You're just gonna have to pick a gadget, see if it works with your playstyle. If not, move on to the next one, because you'll get a lot of the gadgets. So the next thing is stocks or lives. You get 2 lives. Once your 2 lives are up, you die. When you die the first time, you get a buff. I think it's an attack buff. I'm not sure if it's a defense buff, but what I do know is you get an attack buff from what I've seen. The arena is going to have 3 stages to go through. It's going to have the big giant arena, which will be the first stage. The second stage will be the mid arena. So that's where things get a little more compact and a little more closer, but still at a distance. There's also can have some like close distance fights too. And then you're going to have the last arena, if I'm not mistaken. It's going to go into that last arena. It's going to be close range weapons that shine there. And it's going to spawn like 2 little platforms outside of the water, but you can still take damage if you stand out on them too long. And while these arenas clone, if you decide to stay out into the water too long, you will take true damage. True damage means it ignores all defense and everything, goes straight to your health and obliterates you essentially. So don't stay out in the water too long. I talk about ups and downs in this guy, which basically means like certain weapons are going to have an advantage here and other weapons are not going to have an advantage here. Such as the best example I can give you is the bow versus shield scenario. The best one. Those are going to be some of the best weapons when the game first come out for player versus player. Now, if you like them in event content, that's you. I like the shield. I don't like the bow in event clearing content at all. I don't even like using the bow for player versus player. But yeah, with the bow you can play extremely passive in the first stage, which the shield can't really do nothing about it because you can hit the shield with hit stun. The bow, if I'm not mistaken, is one of the weapons that got the most hit stun in the game. Maybe it'll be the shotgun next when it comes out after the katana or whatever. But like it has a ton of hit stun. It can slow you. It can freeze you. So it's damn near impossible to approach the bow from such a long distance with his shield. So in that case scenario, the shield is essentially useless. You have to stay back at range, or you'll have to see if there's another weapon such as chalk rams, which I call the disc or whatever, or if your dual pistols can reach them, if you even have that as an option, or maybe you got a Keshi gadget that can maybe do the job. So keep that in mind, that just because you can't use it right now doesn't mean you can't use it. There's another thing to keep in mind that I also go over in the guide. It's the fact that when you start off, they can see your first weapon. So if my first weapon is equipped as a shield, when the match starts off, it's going to count down from 3. They'll be able to see the shield in the back of my back if my opponent is paying attention. That is something I always paid attention to, which always told me what my opponent's first weapon is, because it's all about creativity, how you use your weapons, and when you use your gadgets. There's someone that fucked me up with a firebomb, and they did it, and they was able to do it because never in my fucking entire existence did I see someone use a firebomb in player versus player. And it does a lot of shield damage, it does a lot of burn, it does a lot of HP damage, and they got me, but I was able to watch out for it the second time because it is a harder weapon to hit. But if you hit in like a combo, it does a ton of damage. Really good gadget. That's why I say like there's no bad gadget, because there wasn't no one else using that, but he used it and used it really effectively. He's one of the few people that did beat me while I was playing player versus player, like actually beat me. So I know some people, they're looking at these SR weapons right here, right? They're like, well, they're SR weapons or whatever. I don't want to know what's the best SSR weapon, because you know SSR weapons, they have to be better. That's not necessarily true. What I will say is I don't recommend using the R weapons in player versus player, but by the time the player versus player arena opens, you should have one SSR, and you should probably have two SSRs. If you don't have two SSRs, you should have two SRs by then. So whatever SSR you'll have, that's just what you're gonna have to use at that moment until you get another one later on, hopefully quicker than later. When I played the beta or whatever, I'm not gonna talk about my experience on CN because it was laggy. The player versus player was kind of terrible on CN, but in the global closed beta where people was invited to, my first weapon was this right here. It was the Chakram Blade, or the disc. So this is this is my first time ever using this weapon in player versus player. For event clearing content, I didn't really like it because it didn't do that much damage. You can see the little ratings over here. The A, the B is for like shield and discharge recovery and things like that. So I didn't really like it because of that, and it showed its performance. And on top of that, I don't like physical weapons. Just not my forte. So we tried out these weapons or whatever. I played with this weapon in player versus player, and this weapon is extremely flexible. In almost every case scenario I could think of, this weapon just was not bad. You could even do some combos with it. Now it does have like its discharge skill is extremely hard to hit, but can be hit, and it's a stun. It procs stuns, which is really good inside of her ult. But I have never regretted using this weapon in player versus player. Now I regret using it for clearing content, but I never regret using this weapon for player versus player. And I didn't use it for the whole closed beta, but when I tell you I used it most of the time, I used it most of the time because it's super flexible, it's super good, and then it worked it well with what I had. Eventually I moved on to Katana and Wand, and then I use this right here, the cube, because the cube is really underrated of how many options it gives you or whatever. And I'm gonna go over each little weapon in a minute. But yeah, that's that. And for the SRs, that's really good or does really well. The SR is another passive weapon, kind of like the bow, but not the same thing as the bow. If you want a downgrade of the bow, you have this right here. Unfortunately, this is a physical bow, so you're not going to be able to slow your enemy, and you're not going to be able to freeze your enemy. So like, this is an alternate to the bow, but it's not better because it does the same thing just without the added freeze and slow effect, which sucks. But I think it does dish out possibly more damage than some stuns. I'm not sure. I will have to test that, but what I do know is for inflicting debuffs on the enemy, it's not that great at because of it being a physical weapon, which is what makes me really dislike physical weapons. But it probably has a lot of hit stun, just like the bow itself. Another SR weapon that was extremely good that a lot of people use, that I even showed a hidden tech on my YouTube channel before, is the SR hammer. The SR hammer is a really good weapon that if you press down the skill, it has a 10-second cooldown or whatever. You press down the skill. No, not a 10-second cooldown. That's if you do it correctly. At the end, it has a 10-second cooldown. So what you'll do is you'll press the skill. It'll go on 20 seconds. Before that circle hits around, you need to press that geyser again, and you need to hit someone. Once you hit someone, you spam it. It gives you infinite dashes on the hammer that you're using. If you switch off the hammer, it resets the cooldown. So you can spam the shit out of the charge attacks, which will give you a lot of dodges. It won't give you any iframes, but it'll give you a lot of dodges you can spam. Some of the attacks have super armor that you can use, which means you won't get knocked out of it. So it's really cool, but you can get stunned. Stun does counter super armor. But yeah, you have a lot of different options with this weapon, but in general, this weapon is just really good for hitting the opponent stick it on an opponent. Really good for close combat arena, which is the last arenas, or even mid arena if you want to surprise the opponent with your hammer, because you can't surprise them with it, but unfortunately it is kind of clunky. It is kind of slow for getting an engage on them. They can really see it coming unless they're not paying attention or trying to do something else, but it's a weapon that can be easily dodged or whatever. But once it's close arena, that's where things get a little nasty. It can also have knock up. When the geyser hits the opponent, it knocks them up to the air, which basically means that if you want to shoot them with a bow, if you want to start attacking them in the air, you can. And also when it does its charge attacks on the ground, that stuff still hits them in the air. It can also inflict freeze, and if I'm not mistaken, it can inflict slow. So, really nice weapon, a really good weapon. People start seeing other people using the beta, and that's where it became more popular because people were seeing how good it was, but I still didn't see a lot of people use the weapon correctly. There was some people who used the weapon correctly and abused the shit out of it, but like, it's a pretty good weapon. It's a weapon that if I had to pick out of like all these weapons that's going to be released on Global, it's one of the best weapons because of the many different options, whatever. Unfortunately, unlike on CN, the damage did get kind of nerfed or whatever. So, that's that. For this right here, this is basically lights and daggers without all the extra crazy shit it gets. I don't use this. I would not recommend it. You can look at the C and A right there. No, sir. This is a weapon I never used. I never tested it out, so I couldn't even tell you. This is a really good weapon. A lot of people are probably going to call this ass, but look at that S right here. It's a reason why that's an S. So this weapon right here, if used correctly, if the right person use it, then it is fucking insane. The reason why is because out of all these weapons here that's going to be released on Global or whatever, when it first releases or whatever, this is going to have the most shield break and the most damage. Not damage per second, but the most damage and the most shield break. So what that means is if I hit you with my ult correctly, your shield's going to get fucked up. You're going to get paralyzed, which means I can do another combo after that. I can give my skills some, I can give my other skills some discharge, recharge. And on top of that, it's going to fuck up your HP, and it's just going to do a ton of damage. And if you got something to feed this weapon discharge, then it becomes really broken. Now the problem with this weapon is a lot of people are going to call it trash when it's the top weapon, and you're going to see someone pull out this weapon on you, and you're going to be like, this weapon is trash, there's no way. And they're going to fuck you up with it, and you're going to question your existence just like I did. Like, ain't no way this motherfucker just pull out an SR spear and fuck me up with it. It's going to happen. Now, who it happens by, I don't know, but it's going to happen because the weapon is absolutely insane. I've seen someone 100 to 0 my ass with this weapon before. They use this chakram blade, they use this, and I think they use this. Or was it the little other weapon? I think they might have used this so that way they can get that immunity, which means if I want to inflict a debuff on them, or if I want to hit them with knockback or something, they're like, you know what, they say fuck you, because what you gonna do about it now that I use my ult? So like, this weapon is really good in the right hands. It's a really skilled weapon, which is what player versus player is supposed to be. A skill-based game mode, right? So, really skilled weapon, really good weapon, going to be really underrated, and I just wanted to shine a light on it, because although I won't be using it, I may try it. Really good combos, really good damage, highest damage in player versus player, and it's just so good. Like, I just don't want nobody to miss that opportunity. Yes, enjoy rip-off hammer. Now, the next thing I want to go over really quickly is, and like I said, the best weapons in my opinion are the two SRs, which is the hammer, the spear, and then after that it'll be the bow because of how easy you can pick it up and play it, and how passive you can be with the bow. So the reason why I'm putting bow in third place is because of how easy it is to use, how easy it is to dodge, how easy it is to play. It literally takes no skill to play the bow, and that's just how it is. And anybody you see play the bow try to act like it takes so much skill, it doesn't. People literally go into Discord and be like, Look how much I just kite the shit out of her. So yeah, you're running away and playing passive. That's how you play that weapon, unfortunately. But if you see someone play the bow, just play passive with me, which means basically if you don't have a weapon to engage, don't engage them into second stage or third stage. It makes the game unfun for that first stage, but you're gonna feel great after you fuck them up. Just listen to what I'm saying. You play against a bow user, don't engage them unless you know how to and you have the opportunity to do so. Literally just stay back, let them shoot. They're not going to hit anything. They might do a couple charge shots to hit you, but if you stay all the way back until the arena closes in, you'll be fine. Trust me. So I put down a couple debuffs, the ones that I remember from the game. These are the ones I can recall. There's a stun, there's a burn, there's a freeze, there's paralysis, there's a slow, and there's a lost direction. These things can either be inflicted by weapons, or they can be inflicted by gadgets or whatever. There's some techs in the game. I don't know what to really call them or whatever, but I'm gonna just call them techs. You got hit stun, mostly inflicted by the bow, cancerous. You got knocked up. This is done by like the katana. This is done by the bomb. This is done by a couple other weapons. You have knockback. This is specifically done by the cube. I can't really remember any other weapon that does this except for the arms or whatever. You slam down and knock them back a little bit. But yeah, it has knockback. But the best knockback from these weapons that I've seen is the cube, because it just knocks them so far back. If they're trying to do a combo, you can literally just press it during it, and there's literally nothing they can do. Absolutely nothing. And it gives you a breather room, and it gives you a shield. So it's so good. That's why I use the cube a lot. So stun lock, that's basically means like I stick up my middle finger to you and you're stuck in this combo, and there's kind of nothing you can pretty much do. Now if you're using super armor, stun lock won't apply. If you hit them with a knockback such as the cube, it also won't apply. AoE is something where the shotgun specializes in AoE, but it also specializes in mid close combat. So what that means is if I hit an area, right? So if I'm aiming for you and I don't exactly hit you, but I hit something next to you, it's going to explode and you're still going to get caught in the area and you're still going to take the damage. It's called area of effect. So you may not be directly where I hit you, but if you're in that area after that initial explosion or initial attack, you're still going to take a stun or burn or damage or freeze or whatever that I might have thrown or used to try and hit you. Iframe is basically when you use an alt or a skill or whatever, depending on what it is, you won't take damage during it. Now I don't know if that exists in player versus player, I can't really recall. But from what I know, there really wasn't no iframes inside of the game. The only iframe I could remember is from CM, but that's other weapons that come out. And the reason why is because the alt does low damage, right? There's really no need for iframes in the game. Yeah, but for every weapon I could think of, just except for the ones with domain expansion. This one I took straight from Jujutsu Kaisen. Literally domain expansion. So you got a couple of fucked up characters in the game that decides to be like, well, you know, I just want to fucking turn this area to my terrain for however long I feel like it. So you got the Claymore user that uses ice, or you call it Gray Sword or whatever. So what she does is she slams her giant sword into the ground. Now this takes a delay. This is an iframe if I'm not mistaken. Like you can't hit her during it. It's kind of damn near impossible, but you probably could. It takes a long time. And it's not like I'm trying to hit her while she's doing that domain expansion, because I'm trying to get the fuck up out of there. But what she does is slam her sword into the ground and fucking summon ice all around you. And then once you're inside of that ice, she can combo the shit out of you. So what I mean is they'll probably do a charge attack spin, and if I'm not mistaken, does a lot of shield damage, does a lot of damage to you, and it's a game changer if they hit it on you. And once you're inside there, you have to try and climb up out of there, because I think it inflicts slow too and increased damage. So it's going to do a ton of damage to you, with the fact that they might combo the shit out of you while you're in it until the ice is down. Which means if you use knockback too, it's also not effective. So if I was to press the cube in there, yeah, I get the shield, so I won't take as much damage. But the fact that I might knock them back against the wall, it won't matter, because they're going to get right back up and finish their combo. because of the fact that the walls are encasing me. Now this move can be used in a disadvantaged situation, but most of the time when it's used, you're either running or it's used as a advantage the opponent. Another domain expansion weapon I consider is, what's it called? Frostbow. So it's like, it's one of the discharge skills or whatever. You shoot some barrages of arrows, it's going to inflict slow and freeze in that area. So essentially you can't stick inside the area, you simply have to move. But it's not really the same aspect of what I'm talking about domain expansion. Like, it literally summons fucking ice walls and you can't like escape it. It changes the terrain. So that's what I'm more going for when I say things like that. Another weapon that really changes the terrain is the scythe, which is a really good weapon, really flexible weapon. This is another weapon that changes the terrain. So it changes the terrain by simply allowing you to use a discharge skill. When you hit it into the ground, if you hit that initial hit, it does a lot of damage, like shield break. And what it does is, for the next 10 seconds, 10, 15 seconds or whatever, what it's going to do is shoot geysers of fire out the ground that's going to chase the opponent with inside that area. Now it doesn't summon no walls or anything, but what it does is changes the terrain to make it hazardous for the opponent. And if they're steel or if they try to do a combo, it will knock them up, dealing damage and inflicting burn, which is really cool because it changes the terrain, but not in the same way that the Ice Claymore does. And there's one more thing that I consider a domain expansion, really, is the dual pistols. So what the dual pistols does is, when you hit her ult, sometimes you're able to proc 3. If you're lucky, you could probably proc. Not 3, 2. Sometimes you could proc 3 or whatever. So what happens is, it shoots an area of lighten that shoots a bullet really fast with inside there. If you walk inside there, you get paralyzed sometimes. Sometimes you get hit stun or whatever, which basically means if you stand inside there too long, not only will it do damage, it'll paralyze you, so that way she can do more combos. So you just want to initially get out of it. You don't want to ever stand inside of it. You want to always move, and dual pistol users will use this as a zoning tool because it doesn't have a big AoE like how the Scythe does or how the Great Sword does, but it has a nice decent AoE, and a lot of times they get 2 chances to use it. So they shoot one over here to the left, they shoot one behind you, and maybe they place down a gadget on the right of you, so that way it leaves no area for you to escape. So you got 2 options. You either run through that domain and take a lot of damage, or you run into that gadget and you take whatever that gadget may be, whether it's stun, slow, direction control change, or whatever the hell that it may be. The point is that it shoots out a domain, and I consider it a domain because it changes the terrain, it changes the area which it's in, and it's something you just do not want to be in. It's something you want to completely avoid. So those are some weapons I consider changing the domain, and there's another one in CN that I consider that changes the domain or whatever. This one right here. So what this does is, when the person ults, it's gonna create a giant ice field. In this ice field, even in player versus player, they're going to get infinity dodges, which means it's gonna be damn near impossible to hit them. They can also hit you with frozen. So yeah, pretty cool. So essentially, you want to get out of that AoE. You don't want to approach that person. That is literally their area to fight. You're not winning, so you move, right? That's the point of why I call it domain expansion. It's pretty much, you walk in there or you stay in there, it's guaranteed you're getting fucked up. Another domain expansion weapon is this fan right here. So when it pops the domain, it's basically, when it just pops her ult or whatever, it's basically her area to control. And like, she can fly inside of it, she can jump 4 times or whatever, and all that nonsense. She can attack you from the air and everything. So essentially what you want to do is walk out of the AoE or the domain. So those are a couple weapons that have domain. Even in CN, it's not that many that have those like domains or areas. But when you see it, you want to get rid of it. I think these also created like a little domain, and that changes the terrain. This one does too, but I wouldn't really consider it like domain or whatever. It's something like it summons a skill on you. It does a lot of shenanigans, shield break, and you want to kind of walk out of it, so it's kind of is a domain, but essentially not the same aspect of what I'm trying to get to. This right here, it summons like little towers or whatever. You don't want to walk inside the towers. They're gonna paralyze you, do a lot of damage to you or whatever. So yeah, this one changes the terrain or whatever. It makes it very hazardous for you when you walk past it. It deals damage to you when you walk in. It does a ton of damage to you. So another weapon that I consider right here that does a little domain expansion in my personal opinion. So you got this weapon 1, you got this weapon 2. I don't really consider the bow because you can kind of, you know, dodge it, but you don't understand it. So if you want to consider it, 3, but I don't really consider it, so I'm gonna just say 2 for right now. 3 right here, 4, and 5. And if you want to consider this as 1/6, you literally do a discharge skill and it summons it on top of you, and you want to walk out of it, or it's gonna keep doing damage. So it's about 5 or 6 different weapons that can do that out of the whole roster. So that's the thing about that. And to go over weapons counter, which I walked over towards the end or whatever, there's going to be close range weapons, there's going to be mid range weapons, there's going to be far range weapons. Those weapons listed in that category will have the advantage over other weapons. So if it's mid range fight or second stage, Bo is going to have a harder time playing against things like wand or katana or scythe, because they can approach them very well when it's mid-range. They don't have much room to dodge and run away anymore. So that's all that means or whatever. And just like these counters right here, these are not guaranteed. There's something, they might even change for all I know, but these are things that I've seen happen and what usually has the better result. The reason why I put down katana beating something as simple as dual pistols, both are really good weapons. You can use them together or not. You can even go against a person using katana with dual pistols and still win. It doesn't mean like it's impossible. It just means it's not the most favorable matchup for you. But if you like play well, then it's fine or whatever. But yeah, that's pretty much my whole player versus player guide. If you did like it, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.